Hello. Today I'm taking a look at a red wine from Bordeaux because next week commencing the 24th of April 2023, the wine trade and press will be in Bordeaux, and I'm going to be amongst them, tasting the 2022 en-primeur wines in a set of tastings run by the Union de Grand Crus. So the great estates of Bordeaux will be showing their wines in near finished condition for assessment to the broader trade and critics. So to get myself in the mood, I've picked out a bottle of 2019 Langoa Barton from Saint-Julien. So Langoa Barton is a third growth, and it's owned by the Barton family. The Bartons have a very long history in Bordeaux. 1722 that Thomas Barton first went to Bordeaux from his native island. He teamed up with somebody called Daniel Gustier, and they formed a negociant house that still exists today. So they were trading wines. 99 years later, the Bartons were obviously doing quite well because they bought what are now two estates right in the centre of Saint-Julien. I mean, literally equidistant between Bechevel in the south and Saint-Julien, Bechevel in the north. There's the house that is the estate of, was Langoa, is now Langoa Barton, and they also bought a portion of the Léoville estate, which is now known as Léoville Barton, with the remaining portion having been split again into Léoville Las Casses and Léoville Poifferet. Langoa Barton is classified as a third growth in the 1855 classification, and the Léoville estates, Léoville Barton, Las Casses and Poifferet, are all second growths. So this is really good terroir right in the heart of this sort of classic region. And what makes it good is that there's sort of deep banks of quaternary gravel, so free draining soil, low vigour soils, with good depth and a view of the river. So the temperature is moderated by the proximity to the Gironde estuary. And that's ideal conditions for growing Cabernet Sauvignon in most years. And this is a wine that is normally dominated by whose blend is normally dominated by Cabernet Sauvignon. So I think this particular vintage is 67% Cabernet Sauvignon, 26% Merlot, and 7% Cabernet Franc. So that's a relatively typical blend for this. In terms of the winemaking, it's really very traditional. Everything's hand-picked. Wine of this quality, you wouldn't dream of machine picking. The bunches go into the winery where they're destemmed, and then there's a selection process at berry level. So I would imagine using optical sorters, but possibly some human input as well. They're selecting individual berries to go into the fermentation. The berries are crushed, and fermentation takes place in old oak tanks, large old oak tanks that are vats, I suppose is a better word, that are temperature regulated. Once fermentation is finished, the wine is run off into barrel, and it'll do its malolactic conversion there. They only use French oak. They'll only use 225 litre barrels, so small French oak, and about 60% of that is new. So you should be getting some sort of cedary oak notes and tannins being added to the wine by that. The wine stays in barrel for 16 to 18 months. And then would be fined, possibly lightly filtered, and then bottled. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we, and see if it lives up to its third growth nature. I mean, 2019 is a very highly rated vintage, and we're looking at a wine that's very young. I mean, notably, that colour has extreme depth. Even at the rim, it's opaque. It's not just a question that I can't see the stem of the glass through the wine. You almost can't see anything through any portion of that wine. It's a deep, inky black red with a quite vivid purple rim because of its youth, and it's as I swirl it, it's very viscous. It stains the glass. There are tears running down there fairly readily. I think it's 14% alcohol wine, which is relatively high for a Bordeaux. So let's have a look at the aromas. Very classic aromas of Cabernet. There's black fruit there. It's very much blackcurrant cassis, more the riper blackcurrant than the more leafy cassis. It has some ripeness, through to sort of ripe black cherries. It's on the riper end of the black fruit spectrum, but still quite high tone. There's a lovely juicy freshness, but overlaid over that there's notes of cedar and graphite. There's almost like people talk about pencil shavings as aromas for clarets, and that is something you can detect here quite vividly. So let's have a taste. My golly, there's a lot of wine in there. There really is a dense licoricey note. There's good weight, there's fantastic structure, but that structure isn't massively astringent and drying. There's certainly some grip, so there is some drying going on there, but the richness of the fruit is really, let's say, licoricey. There's almost a sort of a Pontefract cake richness in the middle there. There's some dark red fruit. It's dark, ripe, red to black plum, plenty of that. There is good acidity, and the acidity comes back through at the finish, which gives sort of a lively plummy note to the finish. And actually the palate is a lot more rich plum than the sort of the black fruit that was more noticeable on the nose. There's not a huge amount of cedariness currently showing in the palate. You can tell it's there because there's a very fine tannic structure, but it's overlaid with that sort of red to black plum fruit note, which has such concentration that it's finding it difficult to show itself. I suppose there might be tiny touches of cinnamon as well, which would be that sort of thing playing through. The acidity is lovely. It is mouth-watering. It's giving the wine length. I mean, just in terms of this wine's quality, I think that you've got to think about its aging potential. I mean, it's surprisingly accessible now because of the ripeness of the fruit, but this is not a wine for drinking for another 10 years, really, because just the power of those tannins, their drying notes, those will smooth out and soften as the molecules combine in the wine and give a more rounded feel. The fruit, which is still quite primary, will gain a lot more tertiary developed characters, but hopefully because of that lovely acidity, it will keep that fresh, or some of that fresh juiciness showing. Yeah, this has a lovely concentration, good ripe tannins, plentiful tannins, and I'm surprised it's not more drying, not more astringent. I suppose the roundness of the alcohol from the 14% is giving the finish some weight, but sometimes if the fruit's not enough, the alcohol can make the finish seem quite drying, so not in this occasion. As I say, the acidity comes back through, peps up the finish, gives it that lively red fruit finish. So the 2019 Langoa Barton from Saint-Julien, a really impressive wine, a really young wine, one to pop in the cellar for a bit. I will be really intrigued to see how the wines I try next week in Bordeaux compare to this. You know, will 2022 live up to the hype and be even more concentrated, or will they have extra freshness? It will be fascinating to see. I suspect they probably won't have this fresh aspect. They'll be much more powerful blockbusters, but we'll see. I hope you found this interesting. Do feel free to follow us. Do like and share, and I hope you'll join us again. Bye now.